Hi, Radical Fate 360 here, not to do a YTP reenactment, but to show you a game system. That's right, I'm finally getting around to doing a game system review. And as you can tell, probably already, I caught something of a virus. But I'm okay, for the most part. Now, what game system am I going to show you? This is the Turbo Duo. Now, what the fuck is the Turbo Duo? Well, it's the TurboGrafx 16 and TurboGrafx CD in one unit. Still not following me? Well, let me give you a quick little history. Set this aside. During the fourth generation, there was the competition between the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. But one system came along from NEC, a technology, more or less, manufacturer in Japan who makes TVs, cell phones, computers, things of that nature. They had their one and only entry in the video game market. In Japan, it was known as the PC Engine. Here in America, it was known as the TurboGrafx 16. Its games did not come on cartridges or floppy disks, which was the norm at the time. But they came on cards. Cards that you slid into the system. It's about the length of a credit card and a little bit thicker. Pretty unusual at the time. But they're pretty efficient. And they're very compact. And because they're very compact, they cost less than some of the competition at the time. Around the same year when it was released in America in 1989, the TurboGrafx CD followed up, which was by the same year or the following year in 1990. The problem with that was the TurboGrafx 16 was only widely marketed in large metropolitan areas, such as Minneapolis, New York, Los Angeles. Here in America, we're very remote and spread out. So that marketing campaign wasn't as successful as it was in Japan, where Japan is very small. So there's the other big cities like Kyoto, Tokyo, things of that nature. To make matters worse, in order to buy the CD attachment, it was only available in large cities. If it were 1990 today, I would have to drive to New York City, to go buy one, if I could even find one when they were available. Additionally, when you attach the TurboGrafx CD to your TurboGrafx 16, you still following me here? It came with a system card that is basically the same shape as this. You had to slide it into the card unit in order for your CD games to work. That's right. The CD BIOS that which the CD games run off of were inside a card, just like this. So if you lost the card that you needed to play CD games, you were fucked. You couldn't play CD games. So that was a bit of a pain in the ass. That, and it was retailing, I believe, between either $400 or $500, something of that nature. Pretty ridiculous. So it's no wonder not many people owned a TurboGrafx CD, and why they're really hard to find today. Let's go over something real quick. This is a standard TurboGrafx 16 controller. And this is the controller port. Pretty unusual. You don't see much like this today. Especially not today, since most controllers these days are wireless and not hardwired to the machine. Here's the funny thing. Looking at the Turbo Duo, which is the 2-in-1 system, this controller port does not fit into the Turbo Duo. The Turbo Duo takes its own controller, renamed the Turbo Dual controller, and has its own new controller port. It's essentially the same thing, but now it's more slim. So that's right. If you were a previous TurboGrafx owner, you could not plug this, or rather, you could not plug in your original controllers into your brand new Turbo Duo. You had to have the separate controllers made for that system. What a bunch of fucking bullshit. However, there is a TurboGrafx controller attachment adapter in which you plug this into the adapter and you plug the adapter into the Turbo Duo system. Now let's talk about the machine real quick. As you can see, it looks pretty slim and sexy. much less bulky than the TurboGrafx 16 and CD unit combined. It also runs off one power supply, which is very nice. And this right here is where you slide in your card games. This is the American model I'm showing you here. This is also one that has a dust cover. That's right, the original TurboGrafx 16 did not have a dust cover. What the fuck is that shit? And this is where your CD games go. This button right here opens up the CD door, but as you can see, it's not working. Now why is that? Here's something a little efficient here. You see this slider switch? You slide this to the left, now the CD door opens. Just like so. This is pretty efficient because the spindle inside the CD tray does not lock the disc in place. And if you can see from the angle here, the other spindle on the top of the CD door, when you close it, then it locks the CD into place and reads the disc. So when you close the CD tray, remember to slide that lock switch so you don't accidentally pop the CD door open. Because if that happens, your disc is going to go flying all over the place, more or less. Furthermore, the Turbo Duo uses the System 3.0 BIOS. You don't need a system card that looks like this to play CD games. The system BIOS for CD games is built right in, the latest version 3.0. So your regular CD games, your CD-ROM 2 games, and your Super CD-ROM 2 games all work on this Turbo Duo without having any additional hardware. Plus, if you didn't know already, CD games are region-free. Now that's pretty fucking sweet. So if you got a favorite Japanese CD game you want to play, it will work on your American Duo. No region lockout. Now, let's look at the AC adapter. As you can see, it's a pretty fucking beefy AC adapter. Probably the beefiest that I own in my collection. And the power source that goes into it is also unusually large as well. Now, if we look here, NEC AC adapter, model HES, input AC 120 volts, 60 hertz because I live in America, 16 watts. The output is 10 volts DC, 1000 mA, or known as 1000 ampage, I believe, for use with NEC Turbo Duo. Now this is a pretty unique power supply and is not easy to replace. I'm not even sure if you could get a replacement like this at Radio Shack. Maybe you can, I haven't done enough research to do so. Needless to say though, this is something that cannot be easily replaced. So if you have a Turbo Duo, like I do, keep a close eye on it. I'd hate to see that go missing. Now what's cool, the Turbo Duo uses RCA cables, yellow, red, white. Not that standard radio frequency RF channel 3, channel 4 switch bullshit. But what's most unusual about this hookup, as you may have guessed already, is the source that goes into the Turbo Duo. As you can see, it's pretty unusual compared to most systems today. I myself have not seen anything quite like this. This looks more like a controller port than it does a port for your RCA cables to plug into the TV. It's the most unusual that I've seen, but I'm sure there's stranger out there because with my obsession with video games, there's a lot that I haven't seen. So if you're looking to get into TurboGrafx games, want nothing to do with ROM images, and are not interested in the Wii Virtual Console, and if you live in America, this is for you. This is the unit that you want to have for American TurboGrafx games. You have your HuCard unit, your CD unit, with 3.0 BIOS built right in, so all CD-ROM formatted games work. There's no region lockout on Japanese CDs, so you can just pop them in and play them. Additionally, it also has an extra, if I remember correctly, around 2,000 extra kilobits of built-in RAM, backup memory for saving games, such as your in-game progress in Neutopia, for example, or any high scores you want to save. The problem is, it's all internal memory, so eventually you may need to make room for additional saves if you want to play other games. So you may have to pick and choose what saves you want to keep and what saves you want to throw out. Not the problem with the Sega CD, which actually had its own backup RAM card. So that's it. That's about all there is for the Turbo Duo. Unfortunately, it's a very rare system and quite collectible. It originally retailed in October of 1992 in the US for $300. Much less than the TurboGrafx 16 and CD add-on combined, but still, $300 in 1992 was a bit too steep. An average price by today, but this is 20 years later. So even then, things haven't changed that much. But that's the Turbo Duo. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope it's been informative. See you later, poopers.